All right, we are live. Sorry I'm late today. I'm actually traveling at the Vancouver BC International Airport. It is a glorious day in Canada. It's 73 degrees, perfect weather. It's June 7th. We have a great show today. We have a great guest. But before we get started, let's ask John Sibley Butler for some music.
Falling in love again. Never thought I would again. Never thought I would. And I may be making mistakes again. But if I live away, how would I know?
Well,
Very
Johnny,
nice,
that was
John Butler.
lovely. Is this falling in love with yourself again, or is another person involved?
Well, there was a young lady that I just met, but don't be getting in my business.
There you go. There you go. There you go. John Butler, how are you, sir?
I am doing just fine. You know, I'm getting so many new technologies in the area, in the industry era, and I've got one that I won't talk much about. But you take the machines to the technology, to the source of the energy, rather than moving it around. So I've never seen really such an outburst in entrepreneur kinds of activities, even during, I would say, the pandemic. I think it has really, really picked up. And of course, Llewellyn would say these, people experiment around with things and they never go anywhere. But I think with what's going on in America, that there's a lot of, pilling around that's very, very interesting. Of course, the other thing, of course, is the overall structure of the economy, how companies are creating jobs, how people are creating jobs. And we have a good case study. There was a company where the CEO said, if you don't want to come back to work, I'm going to fire you. And everybody quit and went home. And I think that is also new in America. And then, of course, the politics is interacting now with the global economy. If you look at case studies, what happens with with Liam Golf joining in with the PGA. Of course, we do lots of business. We do lots of business around the globe with that part of the country, in terms of America. And then if you look at the political stuff, if you look at the Republican Party, it's really, really interesting to me. The Democratic Party is really, really interesting to me. And what's going on in Europe is very interesting. But that has always almost become like Vietnam, just something on TV, and we forget about the suffering that people are going through in the war with Russia. Other than that, the Longhorns and Tigers are both hosting. They're both playing in the super regions, so I'm doing pretty good.
Awesome. Llewellyn King, how are you, sir?
Well, thank you, and good to see you, and nice to see Carina and Johnny, of course. And we've got a lot of smoke from Canada here in New England. It is really quite amazingly dirty in the sky outside. And this brings me to a subject which I think behooves us to take into account. And that is, there is a high possibility that the environment will assume an even more dramatic role this summer as we see aberrant weather, as things get out of control or seem to be out of control, and a public fear sets in. So far, the environment has been people warning, hectoring. Suddenly, when you get something like the smoke from Canada, from wildfires, it becomes here and now. People sitting at the beach will, for the first time, realize that in 10 years, they may not be sitting on the beach because they'll be sitting in the water. These realizations will have huge political impacts, and much of the political dialogue today will seem old-fashioned and irrelevant. Likewise, in Europe, we cannot go on with a protracted war in Ukraine. This is not Vietnam. You don't have the manpower on either side. You don't have the resources. I suspect that if we get any more catastrophes like the dam burst, Western Europe will be drawn into this conflict in a more palpable way than they have been, with aircraft and with state-of-the-art munitions. The other really troublesome point in the world is Iran claiming that it has supersonic weapons. Whether they do or not, it pushes Iran very high in the worry list. Israel will not sit there and watch Iran giving drones to Russia and developing weapons that could threaten the very existence of Israel. So we have several different points of inflection and rather different threats at each point, but nonetheless very real things that we will be contending with the balance of this year.
I think so.
Got it.
Mhm.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So, I'm excited about the conversation because we're going to talk about entrepreneurship and startups and sort of the engine of the economy, the John Butler business model for any innovation of any economy. So, Carina, before I introduce you, that we talked here a lot about digital transformation, and we talk about smart cities, smart utilities, smart buildings, transformation around telecom, Internet of Things, 5G. We talk a lot about all kinds of software, AI, digital twins, the Web 3.0. We talk about, digital, industrial revolution 4.0. We talk about water. We talk about, transportation, mobility as a service. So we're curious about what you are doing, what's going on, what kind of companies are you housing. Give us a sense of the pulse of your company and what you're doing, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. I'm really happy to be here. A lot of what you both just said and shared resonates with myself and the culture of work, right? The culture of work that's shifting. All the different sectors that you mentioned, Andres, I think find themselves as a cross section for where do you have a shared environment for those different focus sectors to be converging together and building upon one another, because that is where the future of work is. It's not where it's going, it's where it currently is. So Carina Boston Pinales here from San Marcos, Texas. I'm local, and I go back about 5 generations in the Central Texas area. And I am the owner and founder of Splash Coworking.
Got it.
We are the first co-working space that is in San Marcos and the first within the Texas Innovation Corridor. We have seen an increase of startups that are finding themselves collaborating with other entrepreneurs, and that ranges from our solar companies that are housed in Splash to a lot of software as service providers focused on merchants and makers. We also have those that are the traditional professionals that are our lawyers, our bookkeepers, our accountants, general construction. Because of the growth in the area, a lot of GCs find themselves needing a different space to work in. When it comes to our traditional, I think what's more broadcasted out there of the startup scene, we have anywhere from biotech companies to service disruptions, like within just simple laundry solutions that we're housing. And we have other startups that are in the sustainability sector. And that seems to be, I think, because our co-working space really cultivates a culture and a community, and like attracts like. And so it's been wonderful for the past now going on 6 years to see the consistency of interest and people that are in Splash.
Yes, that's
Absolutely,
very,
absolutely. Johnny?
yeah, very interesting. Coach Josh Bear, I'm sure you know Josh, right?
Yes, yeah.
Josh Bear down in Austin. And of course, I think you said it's a very, very pinnacle of innovation and creative kind of let's call them ecosystems.
Mhm.
Because one of the things that people don't understand across the country is that entrepreneurs need somewhere to network, just like people in business and banking also need to network, which might be a downtown club. My question, Carina, is this. Are you keeping metrics on the number of companies that actually go from your place and do extremely well, so that you can talk about the tax basis that's provided for San Marcos? That's the
Yes.
first question. Yes.
Yes, we look at ourselves. I think we started out with the identity as a co-working space. And as we've
Mhm.
evolved, we've become more of a pollinator, meaning we help grow, we help connect resources to our members, and we also try to increase the quality of life for our members. And you hit it on the nail, John. We're an ecosystem. We're a part of the ecosystem that entrepreneurs need and business needs just in general. Because there's entrepreneurism that takes place in companies, and then there's entrepreneurism, right? That happens
Mhm.
where individuals create solutions. And similar to Josh's story, Capital Factory really hit a demand that Austin was finding itself and needing to articulate what type of tech was coming to Central Texas and identify what needs and resources that type of tech that was happening in Austin about a decade ago was going to need forecasting for, as far as space, resources, mentors, funding, and programs. Now that Splash is on its 6th year, we have evolved in our programming, which allows for us to not only track the metrics of our companies that have incubated with us organically, but show and keep track of the programs and resources that really benefited them the most. So we make sure we focus on those tracks in order to provide an enhanced experience with our programs with the next generation of startups and businesses.
Well, let me ask you this. In terms of your business model, when I was director of Austin Square, of course, I had the Austin Technology Incubator. And the city of Austin was giving me $800,000 a year. And then I would return and talk to the city about the tax money that we're doing. But then I would also have people from all different, from different areas of the university at the incubator working with the company themselves. So they came from engineering, they came from biology, they came from chemistry, sociology, psychology, business, and you name it, right? And that was a good model for a university. Now, if you look at things like WeWork, which is very, very expensive, or Tech Ranch, and those kind of things, what's your business model? I mean, where are you located? I mean, how do you pay your bills? Are you a 501c? Are you connected to the university? I mean, how do you pay your bills? Because that's the major problem that co-working spaces have. In Silicon Valley, you can stay there until they get ready to sell the building. So how do you pay your bills? How do you pay your bills?
So it's more beyond charm and a good smile. Yeah, we put a lot of hard work into what's been able to sustain us. I can very proudly say we were one of the 6 co-working spaces in the Central Texas area that survived COVID. And that is because we have a wonderful landlord that believes in what we do and really worked with us. We also have a community of members that pays a subscription that they wanted to make sure that they kept their membership, they kept us alive, and that they knew that they had a place to return. So to answer the direct question of like how we're paying our bills, we have memberships that range anywhere from the flex space usage to our private office. And that's the real estate side of the co-working structure. But our model really focuses on programs and being able to provide programming. And we have now developed a 501c3 that complements our LLC. The 501c3 that we have is the Riparius Foundation, and that is where we run all of our programming through. So that gives us the opportunity and the transportation to facilitate funds that complement the programs that entrepreneurs need, go after grants and other funding opportunities. As of recently, we were able to work with the economic development partnership that's here in town in San Marcos, and we will be working closely with them and have a contract with them that's going to supplement some of our other revenue sources.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
we started out with an RFP with the city, which was
that's good.
unique. And going back to your first question on how we track our startups and the activity that happens within our pollinator, we were fortunate to be a focus for a peer-reviewed journal, and they were able to capture from the very beginning our activity, and we have run on those metrics ever since. So going back to the tax, the sales tax, the impact that an ecosystem like ours has, we were fortunate to have the tools to capture that and the support to capture it, that it took 3 years into it to be able to relate to others that were tracking such type metrics. I think before it was like, okay, well, it's a shared office space and there's people that office there and they do stuff, but they're not thinking about when they go and pick up their dry cleaning down the street, or they go and take their colleagues out to lunch, or they make sure that they buy their groceries locally. And I think that's really where the future of work is re-evolving back to the local center of town and resources. And that's where co-working becomes a solution for the future of work.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Llewellyn?
Questions, Carina, but I like to have an example. So supposing a small company called White House Media, it exists, I admit, supposing White House Media want a co-working space with you, what would you offer us? Would you offer us secretarial? Would you offer us telephone service? Would you offer us a path to raising capital? Would you offer us consulting, or would you get our laundry?
We actually do offer concierge services. All of our members are entitled to a business address. So we would help you establish and start there with a business address. And we provide mail services. We also have accommodations for our members when it comes to office supplies, printing. We help when anyone needs their packages signed or received as well. We do offer a third-party telephone service if that's of interest to any of our members or companies. And when it comes to the space that we offer, we have an open flex space option. We have a dedicated desk option, and we also have private offices. Our conference room that's available, it gets used every day nearly, but we also have partnering locations that are our splash pads. And when our conference room is either full or your team is being built and needs a larger space, like a meeting room, we lean on our partnering locations to facilitate space usage for larger groups when it comes to trainings or workshops.
Yeah, you know.
And don't forget, hold on, Johnny, hold on, Carina, don't forget about the Tesla charging.
Yes, we were the first Tesla partners in town. And because of that, it was a great opening conversation of what Tesla, what EVs look like. So to Andres's point is we do offer free electric vehicle charging for our members. And when it comes to our programs, depending on the needs, we do consult with our companies and our members. And when we do that initial consultation, that's when we have a discovery time of what the next phase of resources is going to be for them. So if there's a program or workshop that we offer directly from Splash, we direct those members to participate. If there's something that partnering organizations are offering, we direct them to those programs. So we stay in a very collaborative space when it comes to what we offer our members.
What do you offer that WeWork did not offer or does not offer?
Affordability and community. So the fact that we are able to be affordable, our prices are competitive, and we also take in effect that there's a human behind that membership. So we work with our members if there is an economic need. We have had some members that sponsor other members just to make sure that they are consistent with their membership. The biggest difference is we don't take a real estate approach similar to Regis or WeWork or other places. So that's how our rates are competitive. But the community really sets us apart. Like our members are really close to one another. They hang out, they eat dinner together, they move things, and one person's moving from a different location to a new house. They're really connected, and I think that's the biggest differentiation.
How many members do you have?
We have 80 full-time members, but our community expands over 700. So that means that there's about 700 people that have come through our doors, worked with us, use our conference room, our members full-time, then they move and then they come back. But the concentrated membership is around 80.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm gonna tell you how important that is. In my research, the most single important thing is free space. We did everything in Author Technology Incubator as a laboratory in the university. Of course, WeWorks did not do well as a real estate model. And of course, Josh's model at down in Austin, Capital Factory, is also a real estate model. So I think, the most important thing, I think, is the business model and free, no rent, right? So let's get that done. Now, my other question is this. I found it very, very difficult to stay ahead of the new technology entrepreneurs when I was director, and even now. I can remember very well when Isaac Marcus came to me and said, we're going to have a big conference on clean energy. And we said, okay, what is this clean energy stuff? You think people will come? Wow, we had over 500 people to attend, right? So my question is, as you look at your portfolio now, and if you think about industries, can you give me a concept of where your companies are located? Are they in energy? Are they in health? Are they in marketing? Are they in big data? How do you think about the different industries? And the other one is, do you have a success committee that will allow people to enter into your workspace? How do you work that?
I'll have you repeat the second question, but to answer the first one,
yeah, okay.
We have a good number of creative writers and creative entrepreneurs. We also have a good deal of companies in sustainable energy. We have a number of solar companies, and more importantly, we have companies that deal with the infrastructure. So the construction portion of it, the blue collar part of sustainable energy and the mechanisms that go behind that. So that's been kind of interesting to see specialized technicians that have a widget, or they have a different approach to installation that we're working with. And then on the other end, we have actual solar companies. Chronic Solar is a German-based solar company, and they're working with Yada. Andres is familiar with them, and it's been really unique to watch them grow because in Central Texas, because they're kind of a clearinghouse, and it just worked really well that they're a clearinghouse for solar solutions, and then we have solar companies that are within Splash. We also have a few water technology companies that are housed with us. And then to answer the question about marketing, we have marketing solutions and professional services.
Because my question is, so let us say that White House Chronicles, another great one, wanted to come to your shop, and you have lots of people who want to get in your shop. Can anybody walk in, or do you have a fee for them to walk in so they can have something in the game, or do you have a success group that will look at them and say they are okay? How do you manage who comes and goes, who gets a nice space in your co-working space?
So we try not to have duplicates or anyone that's competitive. And that usually tends to be with our professional services.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have some healthcare providers, healthcare solutions. So we have to be selective in that nature. We do require for members that are needing member usage to have a baseline membership. We also do have some of our more successful members that sponsor other members.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone that just needs to like come in and meet with someone, and that's going to determine whether they get the job or they get the client or they get the customer. We usually let them use the space because we want to see success in our area. So we work it out in the back end, and that comes and goes as needed, but we have people that want to support other people, and we're really fortunate for that. But that goes back to our community and what makes us different than other spaces, because our community really believes in one another.
So you have a mature startup, and then you have people who are just getting started, and then you have people who come in that's very, very mature.
Yes.
To help them along. Do they pay a fee to sit with you? So if I wanted to come in and be an advisor, would I pay a fee to get a chair there?
We have an initial consultation. Like I said, like usually the intake is complimentary, and that's really to fill out what the needs are. Anything that moves beyond that, when it's specific business consulting, we do have a sliding scale fee that is hourly, or if we know that we're just going to need to work with the startup for a couple of sessions, we pair them with a mentor that's local, and then we have in-house consulting as well.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So I have a couple of questions, maybe a little bit of peppered questions. So Carina, give us a sense for, again, you've been doing it for, less than a decade. What is the vibe in San Marcos? The university's there, you're between San Antonio and Austin. Give us a sense for what's happening, grassroots. You have a lot of grown-ups coming to do startups, just graduate students doing startups. Is it international companies moving in? California companies moving into the corridor? What does it look like? What's the vibe of what's happening?
I like that you asked if there's grown-ups. I mean, I think we all like to think that we're grown-ups, but we definitely are kids at heart with at least the amount of fruit snacks that we go through. But yeah, we have young professionals. I'd say a majority of our membership base is anywhere from late 20s to mid 40s. But I love that we do have retirees and we have a senior audience. When it comes to the university, we have a very strong relationship with the university. So we are a pipeline for interns and pairing interns with our members. I have 3 awesome interns right now that are working for Splash, and we've had a 100% success rate with all of our interns, and we've had several dozen that have gone through us in the past 6 years. All of them have gone on to full-time careers after they wrap up with us. But when it comes to the younger entrepreneurs, that is when we lean on our relationship with Texas State. For example, we have a couple of our startups from Splash that are participating in the New Ventures pitch competition next weekend on the 17th. So I invite everyone to come and join us on June 17th for the New Ventures pitch competition that we're heavily partnered with Texas State on that. And when it comes to the competitors that have participated in this year's cohort that are Texas State students, this is a perfect example of us being available for them. And to John's point earlier, we offer a discounted rate and package for the startups that are participating in events with Texas State.
Okay.
I'd like to inquire what your future is. Are you going to franchise this? Are you going to spread to other cities? Are we going to see a national Splash?
I currently am looking at our expansion plans. We have had a wait list for quite some time now. So our demand is there. We have been hosting pop-ups in the local smaller towns nearby. Buda, the city of Buda, has been very generous in hosting us in their city facilities to see what co-working looks like in Buda. So what we will looking at doing is expanding for the next couple of years at least. And if we hit a road that looks like we need to franchise, we'll have that discussion then. But right now we are looking at expanding locally in San Marcos and throughout the Central Texas area.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very, as we think about the corridors between Dallas to San Antonio, and I tell people there'll be a time when we can drive to San Antonio where there'll be nothing but buildings. It's almost there now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Silicon Valley is 5 cities, right? And what was done in Austin to become the technopolis and the great city it is now when it comes to technologies. And given the prices in Austin just to live, to purchase a home. So I think that this technopolis can go all the way to Waco, and we're seeing that now. That is, people are buying houses in Waco now and driving to Austin, just like in California. It might go as far east as Columbus, Texas, who knows? But my question is, do you have any interaction with the other co-working spaces?
Mm-hmm.
Are they developing in other cities like Pflugerville or around Austin? And what do people think about being part of not their small town anymore,
Mm-hmm.
but rather being seen as the South Shore of Austin and the North part of Austin? But talk to me about the co-working and you guys getting together and creating companies around the whole entire corridor from Waco or Dallas to San Marcos.
Well, your point is statistically proven. I mean, 44% of co-working spaces are in the suburbs and in those smaller cities.
Wait a minute now, we're Southerners, we don't say suburbs.
Yeah.
We have small towns.
We have small towns, correct.
It's a northern town.
Yeah.
Edge
northern kind of
cities. Edge cities, according to Tom Wolfe.
You're right. So in the smaller towns that are adjacent to the bigger cities, yes, that's where you find 44% of the co-working spaces or shared workspaces. I love the co-working industry because we're collaborative. Each one of us offers something different. So it's not a competitive arena. If anything, we validate one another. So when I have a member that is finding themselves in Dallas or in between, I know exactly who I can call, and vice versa. We all communicate with one another because the survival of us is really from learning and also complementing one another. We are
Karina-
special in the, go ahead.
Sorry, Karina, what are your challenges? All businesses have challenges. What are yours?
Our challenges right now is that we need more space. So answering the demand and finding the best vehicle that's going to be sustainable for us to expand is my biggest challenge. We are special in the fact that one of our taglines is that we're locally driven but globally connected. So we are a part of the Global Entrepreneurship Network. I'm personally the coordinator for the area. And with that, we have a lot of international relationships, and the startups that we have through our international partners and collaborators, they work in capacity of learning from our startups and vice versa. So going back to the question that you had earlier of like what our future looks like, it's really going to be a mecca for international startup activity, working with our local startups here in San Marcos.
Do you have any big success story, any company that came to you when it was small and is now a household word?
Not fully there yet. Chronic Solar, the German solar company that I mentioned earlier, they're a huge success in the fact that they wanted to make sure that they stayed in Texas and they expanded from their Florida and California headquarters. And we have been able to offer them the resources and the space needs that they've needed as they've grown. If we didn't exist, they probably wouldn't have stayed in the area. We also have a coffee company that is now in the Fiesta. It's white labeled in the Fiesta food markets. So we have a coffee roaster that incubated from us. Literally just doing small events to getting a trailer in the back of Splash to having 3 locations now, and then becoming a national roaster.
Good.
And that's
Interesting.
Cafe Azteca. Really, really good coffee if y'all want to look them up.
Yeah, I have a related question. Mathematically, we found people would say, well, why do you want great companies to move to Austin, the big companies to move to Austin? Because we would say at least 1% of those people, of those great minds that come here with, with other great companies, whether it be Samsung, they will look out and see the wealth creation in the ecosystem. They would see wealth being created, and they would say, I think I want to be an entrepreneur too. So they would leave in the early days a Dell computer. I want Microsoft here because some of their best and brightest will enter their ecosystem. I want Samsung here because some of their best and brightest will leap from the large company to enter the well-informed ecosystem for startups. Do you see any of that where you have people that have been associated, have worked diligently in great companies, and all of a sudden they want to do their own thing?
Oh yeah, every day.
Every day. Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I see.
Immediately I think of one of our splashers, and he was working, he's an executive with Microsoft, and he was just wanting to be in the mix. So we watched him working with Microsoft, become a splasher just to support us, just to hang out, just to see what was going on and within our members, hosting different small workshops with his expertise, having been with Microsoft for over 15 years, and then trailing off into his own consultancy, and then creating his own foundation. And then now he has a high demand for his consulting and has been able to grow his team, and he's almost up to 15 employees. So that's just one example. We have another young lady. She used to work for a couple of retail lines, and she quit her position and then created a home organizing company. And she participated in our Women's Entrepreneur Bootcamp program. And she is the prime example of participating in a program and then putting that learned information to action and creating her company and scaling it. So now she fully supervises and is not a part of the operations of the home organizing leg of her company. She's also started another consulting company and has been able to hand off her company to her team and her employees. So yeah, it goes from coming from the corporate world and working for someone and realizing, oh, I can do something on my own and getting that inspiration, to also being in the environment of innovation and tech, but then knowing there's something else out there that I could be doing.
See, when we put a time, when we do the research and put a time stamp on these great regions, Boston in 128 really created Silicon Valley. So when the great people leaped out of the high-tech companies in Boston, well, they did not belong to the right clubs. They did not belong to the right downtown clubs. They did not belong to the right families and the large companies. So they had nowhere to go. So there, Stanford University said, come do business on a napkin. And all of the kids out here to do business on a napkin. Well, those kids went there and turned a great farming community into one of the great high-tech areas. And then all of a sudden, you can't live there, so they moved south. Well, the same thing happened in Austin, Texas. We said, come from Silicon Valley, come from Boston. Well, we have treated Austin now that it's difficult to live here.
Yes.
So actually, Boston created Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley created Austin. And Austin would create the entire corridor, if you will, between Dallas and San Antonio. And I think that's what the research, and I do a lot of that research, of course, is telling us. So these places, when we did the woman who was in the chamber, when we did Capital Factory, we went to San Francisco, and it was just a beehive of huddling, just a beehive. And so we came back and Josh did Capital Factory just so that we could have interaction, a beehive of individuals from large companies, from small companies, to talk about their great ideas. So remember that all of these things are interactive, but I want Andres Cavallo to do this. Make sure that your rent is free as long as you're there. Now, if he has to build you a co-working space on campus, where you become the great co-working and say this is his laboratory, then I want him to do that.
So tell us real quick, Carina, about.
Wait a minute, Andrea, you didn't comment on that. You didn't comment on my wishes.
I think
I'm real disturbed. You're acting like Llewellyn. I'm disturbed now. I'm disturbed.
No. The plan.
I like you guys.
The plan is to get Carina capital so she can build her own building on our campus on Star Park. That's the plan. But I think I'm curious about something that you touched on, Johnny, which is, she is the premier working space incubator, thought leader, activist, entrepreneurship in San Marcos, which is being potentially fueled by 40,000 students. And the question to her is, give us a glimpse of the relationship that you have with the city. And obviously you talked about the RFP and how that all started, but give us a sense of how much are you wrestling with them, impacting them, helping them, guiding them, what is going on and how they listen, and how does San Marcos becomes this nirvana place between Austin and San Antonio.
Right. I have a really good working relationship with the city. We're a conduit. We're the crossover, right? The liaison between the public and private space. And that was intentful, where I looked at myself, and I also looked at the conversations I needed to have, and I navigated the pathways it would take to work with the city to educate them and then also to educate myself. And I thought to myself, well, if I can cut my teeth doing this and at least get an understanding of the landscape, because it's always evolving and the machine is the machine, then I feel more confident in even opening our doors for startups and entrepreneurs to exist in a space where talking to city staff, talking to council members is not intimidating, it's not unapproachable, but it's very accessible. And humanizing those relationships between the city and the startups is extremely important. And that was why with the RFP with the city 7 years ago was so not only intentional, but meaningful to redirect the idea and the sophistication of co-working spaces with the private sector and the public sector working together beyond the like public-private partnership, like knowing that this is a community, this is the identity of us here in San Marcos, and how we evolve to make sure we don't get swallowed by Austin and San Antonio when it comes to how do you identify the city, how do you identify the community, and what we're able to produce. So growing from just a simple relationship of offering space and communal services for businesses and startups to now where we're working more hand in hand with the city. I mean, even when we experienced the freeze for Texas, the historic freeze, we were the community hub for information, for resources, for essentials. I mean, because of our relationships with private companies, we were able to act way faster than the public services could. We were a destination for water resources for all of Hays County. And it was just very ironic that we're called Splash and we were where people were getting the water. So that didn't take any explanation. But it was very fluid for the city manager to call and say, who is it that y'all have relationships with? And it is because of our international relationships and our local pathways that we were able to be an emergency resource for our community. And it wasn't a second thought. It wasn't like, wait, they're a co-working space, you can't ask them for water when 40% of the population in San Marcos needs it. It was, hey, Splash has water and they have a private company they can hit up to work with us. We have vehicles with the city, let's go and get it. And so that's an example of how blurring the lines of where everyone needs to hold their titles and reminding themselves that we're all human, we're all working together to just make our lives more enjoyable.
Carina, tell me something about yourself. What did you do before you became an entrepreneur? What is your discipline? All that sort of good stuff.
I think I've always been an entrepreneur. I just needed to be told I was an entrepreneur. I mean, I can think of like my first business that I created when I was 13, and there was a couple of things I wanted to do. So I started painting windows around town. And so I seasonally had clients, and it was really hard for people to say no to a 13-year-old. So I figured that out really quick. And so, and I wanted to ride dressage, but my family economically was not able to really provide horseback riding lessons for me. So I cleaned stalls, and then I also trained people from the time I was 9 until I was 14. So I figured out different ways to use my skills or what I was capable of doing to get the end result. So I've always been an entrepreneur. I just wish someone had explained that to me early on, because I think I would have thought of my accomplishments a little bit different than a hustle. I would have thought, oh, this is a skill, this is a talent, and this is something that most people do have, but they don't hone in on and apply. And my technical training, I have a bachelor's of science in psychology with pre-med and communications. And then I also have a bachelor's of fine arts in sculpture. So when I approach something, I think of anything, even the co-working space itself, it's just a large art installation to me. I think about the materials, the resources, what I need to gather in order to execute it and make it happen. And then I make it happen. And that creative part of my brain allows for me to make things that didn't exist before, but then the technical side of it allows for me to strategize.
Carina, are you still riding? Are you still involved with the horses?
I haven't been as late. It's been a couple of years, but I do get an itch. I didn't realize that they would throw me on the most difficult horse to try to figure it out. Because I'm taller, so my long legs come in handy, but I've been on some pretty intimidating beasts and not realized until I got on, oh, this is why no one else wanted to ride them.
I have a large background with my wife in horseback riding.
Really? What seat is she?
We're English riders, and hunt seat, forward seat. We've had a string of horses. We specialized in Percheron, either quarter horse or Percheron thoroughbred cross.
Oh, beautiful.
A big, strong horse that was athletic. The last beautiful horse I had was a mare who stood 18 hands. She was black, and she would do anything. She would jump 5 feet. She was a wonderful, wonderful horse. Bomb-proof, as we say.
Yeah.
But all of this stuff
Oh,
is about
nice.
horses. I gave up horses with the combustion engine, as I did give up bicycles.
You don't have to.
I mean, I like
Your
they're gorgeous,
Philistine qualities to
gorgeous
us.
people. And my dad was in agriculture. But if Dad said, "Do you want a horse or do you want a 57 Chevy?" I said, "I'll take the Chevy."
Well, my favorite question at a transportation summit was everyone was supposed to share their favorite mode of transportation. And I was the only one that said a horse. And I stood up, I was like, I'm not the only Texan here. So come on, like there has to be someone.
Well, remember, you never invest in things that's eating while you're sleeping.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
So
that
let me-
doesn't also take oil. So
Yeah, I did.
Let me ask Carina a question real quick. Carina,
Okay.
there is no right or wrong answer on this. When you think about the evolution of San Marcos as a city, a college town, and all that, and you think about where society is going, sustainability, connected vehicles, autonomous vehicles, walking to work, the European style of living versus the American style. What do you see? What can you glimpse for us? Where's the city of the future looking like?
So I like to think of during the gold rush, Texans made shovels, right? While all the gold rush was happening, Texas was making shovels. And that mentality of business and sustainability is something that I see in San Marcos and I see with our blue collar community that has the most innovative changes based on boots on the ground experience. So I see us being more of the hardware sensors, the smart city being based on usability, the living life of people, and us being able to provide those solutions just based on observation of our community and how we're resilient, we're innovative, but we're down to earth. And I'd see us sticking to the necessities of technology and innovation, because we'll be able to adapt but sustain.
Very good.
Got it.
As we said with the gold rush, who made all the money? The people who made the blue jeans made all of the money, not the people who were looking for gold. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the story of why there was so many Asian owned dry cleaning and laundry services during the gold rush, because people didn't empty out their pockets. So it was smart to have a laundry service back then. I mean, just that type of thinking that there's indirect opportunities.
Yes, and they were very good and clean coming from their home country. They were very clean people. Yeah. Well, this is good. Let me I know we're running out of time here.
We
As
got a late
Llewellyn,
start. We can keep going as long as y'all are
oh,
available.
okay, we got another John Butler here. As Llewellyn said, when you think about the future, what do you see? I mean, in terms of workspace, where people, you made a comment earlier that you know, how we work will be different in the future. How do you see the nature of work, and what kinds of entrepreneurial activities will be around the localization of work?
I think this goes back to the beginning conversation that
Yes.
you both were speaking on, especially considering we are all impacted by our climate shift, our climate changes, the environment being so much larger than us, right? When we think about how we exist in the universe and our grain of sand that we are. So I'd like to think while technology is evolving, AI is evolving to at least expedite tasks, and machine learning, machine operation is taking up the work that we depend on humans for. I think that'll finally give us the space to think about these solutions to the real problems that we have, and to allow for us to go back to our roots and have a creative flow of how do we sustain ourselves as a species with what we're up against. I think it'll quiet the noise and the day-to-day that we have to answer to, because we will be using AI more and machine learning more, so that we can actually be the incredible human creatures that we are, that can imagine and can discover and deliver solutions to the problems that we've caused. I don't think a solution can ever exist without the problem existing in itself. And I think hopefully the future holds some more standstill and quietness, so we can actually put these solutions to effect.
That's very, very good. I think that let's make sure that within the context of the
Totally.
solution, we have the market economy.
Totally.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Karina, real quick, final thoughts.
Oh.
Karina, final thoughts. What keeps you, what's happening in the next 6 months at Splash? What's going on in front of you?
Oh, grant season. Looking at all the grant opportunities, getting ready for the fiscal year, seeing what we can really offer and roll out the programming that that Splash has now been approved for. So really academically providing entrepreneurial camps and business solutions for our community. But also the river time. We can't forget that. The next 6 months is going to be hot, and we're going to be at the river quite a bit.
Okay.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Gentlemen, final thoughts?
We're going through a period of great change, whether we recognize, we see it in how we work, we see it in how we think about things. You've got, for example, a movement in Europe which is anti-growth. Well, I think it's wrong, but nonetheless, it's a force to be dealt with. The old idea of simple more is better is under question, at least in parts of the world, which is going to impact us. We also have this huge surplus of unemployed people in Africa and Asia. The population of Africa is going to double in the next 20 years, and there is no work. So you're going to have a huge number of people trying to get into the economically successful countries, primarily for Africans of Europe, because of they can cross the Mediterranean if they're far enough north of the continent. We're going to see people trying to get into the United States, no matter what defenses we put up. And you're going to see Asians trying to get into Australia, New Zealand, etc. So it's a disturbed time ahead for the human species. All is not perfect. We're going to have to find employment for everybody on Earth that pays enough, that sustains a decent way of life. Just modest, but at least decent, not starving. I have seen starvation all over the world, and especially in my native Africa, and it is a horrendous thing. Every time we throw out something in my house, I think, my God, in Africa, we wouldn't throw that away. It would be valuable to someone.
Well, thank you very much. And it's been a great time. Remember that entrepreneurship, new venture development is why in America people come here. We have always provided different kinds of jobs and different kinds of opportunities, and we might be the last hope for every individual. So with that, I had a flash on my
Hey,
screen.
Johnny.
Yes,
Johnny, let's close.
Okay, let's close it. Okay, we got a good Texas on the line.
It's so nice to
Amarillo
meet
by
you.
morning,
Oh,
up from San Antonio. The only thing that I've got is what I've got
Really with
on. When that sun is high in that Texas sky, I'll be bucking at the county fair. Amarillo by morning, Amarillo, I'll be there.
good job. Thank you. I appreciate the
Okay.
opportunity, Andres.
Guys, I have to
Hi,
leave.
Carina. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank y'all both. Thank you,
Okay.
Andres.
Andreas, are you there? Llewellyn, are you there?
I am here. I don't know
keep
what's happened to Johnny.
I'm here. Can you see me?
We're here together, but I've got to tell Johnny, I doubt I'll be able to be on next week's show because I'll be down in San Antonio on my way back.
Okay.
Are we
All
going
right.
to get together, Lee and me?
Oh, absolutely. When you come to Texas, we're going to get together. I figured it all out.
We're going to arrive on Sunday for the Edison Electric Institute meeting at the Marriott, and we will be there leaving on Wednesday, the 14th. Is Wednesday the 14th, or is it?
I don't know. I think Sunday. I think it is.
Hang on, Linda's looking it up.
Stay 14th, yes.
Yeah, so I probably won't be on the show next week.
Okay.
Okay, well, we'll see you next week. We'll work out
Okay.
something.
See you. All righty. Take care.
Cheers, mate. Cheers, friend.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.